In a certain year, a new type of virus appeared on Earth. It turned humans into ferocious zombies. The National Health Organization soon announced that this was a pandemic. The authorities tried to control this infection crisis, but a large part of the world's population has been infected. In this chaos, little Roland and his family are preparing to flee the city to meet his father. His father is waiting for them at the airport and will take them safely out of this country. However, when they arrived at the parking lot, Roland's mother and brother were attacked by a zombie. He was soon infected. The girl hid under the car. Her mother tried to attack her, until a police officer named Jack used a gun to kill the zombie and save her. 10 years after the tragedy, the world was destroyed by the zombie disaster. Only a few people survived, including Roland and Jack. The former police officer tried to protect the girl and taught her how to defend herself and hunt in the forest. At this time, the two were hunting a deer. The girl shot the prey and showed her skills. After that, the two set up a tent to prepare for the night, but Jack heard a zombie approaching in the forest. He took a gun and found the infected man and fired a shot at his head, but various signs showed that there were more zombies nearby. Therefore, he and Roland were forced to leave the camp. The next day, they set off on horseback. During the trip, Jack thought about his plan repeatedly. He planned to go to an island off the coast of the United States. He thought there were no zombies there. This trip took 2 weeks. Before that, they needed to collect more supplies and ammunition on the way. They arrived at a hilltop and saw a man trying to escape from a zombie who had been infected. Roland quickly picked up his rifle and aimed at the zombie, but this shot not only hit the infected zombie, but also hit the victim. Due to this mistake, the zombie eventually infected the man. Jack had to fire another shot to kill them both. After that, the two checked the vehicle and wanted to find some supplies, but they didn't find anything useful. Then the two decided to continue on their way, but they were stopped by a group of carrying guns. The gang recognized the dead man on the ground and deduced that Jack and Roland were the culprits. They accused them of being robbers. The group then threatened to kill the two of them on the spot, but the whole place was surrounded by dozens of hungry zombies. Facing the same enemy, the group of people joined hands with Jack and Roland to fight the zombie army. Not long after, the bullets of the two of them ran out, so they pulled out their knives and fought the zombies directly. At the same time, the sniper also fired a shot at the zombie, but this was not enough. Some of them were also infected. Seeing that this confrontation was unpredictable, Jack and Roland got into a car. There were 2 passengers in the car, Mayjen and David. They didn't have time to introduce each other. The group of people accelerated to the highway and threw the zombie dog behind them. As soon as they opened enough distance, the couple explained that they were on their way to a shipwreck and met those shooters. They were told that there were no zombies in this place. It was safe. The two of them had to get there because Mayjen was about to give birth to their child. Jack warned them that he couldn't take them there because he couldn't take Roland's safety risk. However, things got worse. The engine of the car broke down and stopped halfway. The group of people were forced to continue. A few hours later, the 4 of them arrived at a nearby town. There seemed to be no one in this town. Jack remembered a local school and took everyone there. They can hide there overnight. The 4 of them had a fight. Roland was happy to have a new partner. Because he had escaped with Jack for so long, he took this opportunity to know more about the couple. They told him that they came from a farm, but that place was attacked by infected people. Therefore, the 2 of them were forced to set fire to the entire farm and escape with other survivors. A few days later, they met a group of shooters. The shooter told them about the shipwreck and promised to take them there. At that time, they met the life track of Roland and others. Now, the only chance for them to ensure their child's safe birth is to arrive at this colony. After hearing all this young woman promised to help them. But Jack was against this idea. He thought that the only way to survive in the world where zombies roamed was to remain isolated and hidden. Despite this, he still pointed out to them on the map the way to the colony. Although he knew that if he didn't help, David and Megan could not survive on the journey. Roland was very angry with his adoptive father, but Jack was determined. He went outside and set traps around the building. Just as he was worried about, the group of zombies far away had finished eating on the mountain. Now they are coming to the city following the traces of these people. The next morning, Roland put a book on the top of the building and looked at his only memorial to his family. However, he heard the sound of killing and saw strange movements, so this young woman went downstairs to see what happened, but she met a zombie who tried to attack her. Thanks to the training she received, she tried to avoid the attack and counterattack. She used a curved knife to cut the zombie's neck. Then she went to find others, but another infected zombie blocked her way and forced her to the window on the 2nd floor. Roland quickly bent down and pulled the zombie to the window. The zombie fell to the ground. This action almost made this young woman fall from the window, but luckily, Jack arrived at the last minute and pulled her back. Since there was no protection in this place, This group of people needed to leave as soon as possible because the group of zombies was getting closer and closer. One of them reached the entrance and tried to break in, but when he met the steel wire set by Jack, he set off a trap. A bomb nearby was detonated and the zombie was blown up into several pieces. Thanks to this trap, Jack and others won time to escape from the building, but they need to decide what to do next. This former policeman suggested to go to another city, but Roland remembered that the airport where his father worked was nearby. There must be a plane that they can use to escape. Although Jack thought this route was very dangerous, he still agreed to this plan. They walked along the road until they stopped in front of an abandoned building. There, this group of people saw a passenger in a car, but they were just shot to death because they were worried that the shooter might come back. Jack asked everyone to separate to find supplies. Roland and David went to the building next door. They found some canned food and then left, but they didn't realize that there was a family hiding inside. At the same time, Jack found a gun. Everyone followed the road to the airport. It looked safe, but the family who had been hiding in the building was not so lucky. Because the zombie group had just arrived, the family tried to escape, but one by one, they became the next victim. A few hours later, Roland finally found the airport, but there were no planes around. All signs show that this trip was in vain. However, this young woman saw a special airport where her father had worked. She went in and saw a plane. With this plane, they could arrive in a few hours, but the engine needed to be repaired. David and Megan decided to stay to repair the plane. Jack and Roland went to check the airport. During the inspection, this young woman found an old photo of herself and her father. Due to the zombie incident, her father may not have survived. The girl cried when she thought of her family, but soon she got up and went to find Jack, who was inspecting the observation tower. Unfortunately, the former police saw the zombie group following them and headed for David and Megan. The two ran back to the plane. David told them he had tried to repair the plane, but he still needed further repair. As there was no time to repair, Jack asked him to turn the propeller. Roland, who had never flown before, quickly read the flight manual and started the engine. The plane began to move, but it needed a faster speed to take off. As soon as they reached the runway, a few zombies began to chase them, but Roland accelerated the speed of the plane and successfully threw them away. Everything went well until one of the zombies managed to catch the memory of the plane and tried to break into the cabin. Jack quickly punched the zombie and fired a shot at its head and knocked the zombie down and ran to the middle. In the end, Roland successfully let the plane leave the ground. Thanks to this, it was only a matter of time before they safely reached the colony. However, just as David warned them before, this plane still needed more repair. Only a few minutes later, the plane began to crash. Roland tried his best to make the plane land. As a result, the plane hit a tree and crashed in the middle of the forest. Although it was hit, fortunately, no one was seriously injured. But now they had to walk to the destination, and the zombie group was still chasing behind. After a while, the four of them came to an old train station. There were no signs. After making sure this place was safe, Jack took another look at the map and found that there was still 2 days to go. It didn't seem bad enough. Their supplies and ammunition were running out and they had to set off, so this group of people took a night off here. David let his wife rest in bed and checked this place at the same time. Megan couldn't sleep and went to get the canned food they found in that abandoned building. Jack saw all this and opened the can for this young mother. Then, Megan gave her a bed sheet as a gift to thank her and Roland for their help. Jack thanked her and confessed that he had a wife but lost her when the zombies raided the country. Since then, his only contact with others is Roland, but he still feels guilty for eliminating and becoming the zombie. Roland's mother and brother Megan comforted him. He has done his best. Now he needs to learn to trust others. He gave her his necklace. There was a picture of him and David and their dog. The dog was like Jack's wife and died in this epidemic. The former police was moved by this story, but he let Megan rest because tomorrow would be a long day. At the same time, David walked into a train carriage and pulled out a gun and aimed at his head. When the school was attacked by zombies, his leg was bitten and would be infected soon. He considered suicide to avoid becoming a zombie and endanger his wife's safety, but he couldn't do it and went back to his team. The next day the four of them continued to walk in the forest, but David's condition was getting worse. He tried to hide his condition, but Jack noticed that his pants were full of blood when Megan tried to help him. David was very angry and insisted that he was fine. Then the team continued to move forward. Roland and Megan led the way. Jack didn't notice and confronted David. He exposed the wound on his foot and was ready to kill him. Although he knew the risk, Jack decided to spare his life for the time being. The four of them continued to walk until they reached a house nearby. A man with a shotgun walked out of the house. At first, he threatened to shoot, but when he saw a pregnant woman he changed his mind. He let everyone in, but first he asked them to put all their weapons in a box. After that, This man introduced himself. He is called Norton. He is a scientist. He used his knowledge to create a geothermal energy so that he could live normally in the forest. Then he invited everyone to stay at his house to eat and rest until they could continue their journey. After dinner, this scientist invited them to drink in the living room and told them how he survived alone in the forest. During the conversation, this man suddenly changed the topic and said that the zombie virus is an important step. It played a role in reducing the number of people. Only the strongest people can survive. Everyone thought this conversation was very suspicious, and the situation was getting worse and worse. David began to feel uncomfortable and went to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and found that the infection was spreading all over his body. He didn't have much time. Then he went back to his room and found that Megan, Roland, and Jack were all unconscious because the alcohol Norton gave them contained sleeping pills. David tried to attack Norton, but Norton triggered a metal glove that he invented to control the infected. He brought David and others to his secret lab and showed them that metal glove. Thanks to his invention, he was able to keep the zombies away from his home and planned to treat this group of people as experimental mice. At first, this scientist released his wife, who had also been infected, and ordered him to attack this group of people. However, Jack and Roland kicked him, and David, who was infected, showed the power of ordinary people and successfully got rid of his wife. Then he threw the zombie aside to help others, but he was stopped by Norton. Norton triggered his metal glove. Even so, David still tried to untie the rope. This group of people ran towards the exit and picked up their weapons. They found the scientist's car and drove through the forest, but Megan warned them that her oxygen was broken, and she was about to give birth. What's worse, there were zombies. During their escape, they met a big tree and blocked their way. This group of people was forced to get up, but it was only a matter of time for the zombies to catch up. So with the spirit of self-sacrifice, David decided to stay and fight for their time and asked Roland and Jack to take care of his wife. The three of them fled in the forest. David used his last bit of strength to resist the zombies. Although he resisted hard, the leader of the zombie group still appeared behind him and easily twisted his neck. At the same time, Roland, Jack, and Megan continued to run until they saw a light far away. In the end, the three of them arrived at the shipwreck. Roland called for help, and the security guards aimed at the zombies with guns. The zombie leader saw that this place was guarded and ordered everyone to retreat. Jack, Megan, and Roland were taken to the colony. At dawn, Megan was taken care of by a local nurse. Roland met the residents of the colony. One of them was a young man. He finally felt that he had found a place to live, but Jack warned him that they would leave as soon as Megan recovered. However, the young woman refused because she wanted to stay in the colony and was tired of listening to Jack's orders. The argument between the two continued until the nurse appeared and called Jack over. Unfortunately, the nurse brought bad news. Although the baby was born, but Megan's life was in danger. There were only a few hours left. Jack went to see her at the last moment of her life. Megan named her daughter Hope. Before she died, she gave her necklace to Jack and asked him to take care of her daughter. Jack had to face the tragedy of life again, but he agreed to Megan's request and held Hope in his arms. At the same time, the relationship between Roland and Deli became closer and closer. At night, at a party on the ship, Deli introduced her to his friends. Everyone was celebrating happily, but Roland was curious about the ship, so he went to the cabin. Inside, he saw a device. When he tried to press the mechanism on the device, Deli stopped him because it was a mine. This young man explained that the members of the colony made a plan B and filled the ship with explosives in case of being invaded by the infected. In addition, he also showed an opening on the floor of the ship. Below is a tunnel in the water so that they can escape safely when the explosion will continue until dawn. The colony seemed to be calm at this time. The scientist Norton appeared. He used his metal gloves to successfully lure the zombie here and planned to implement his plan. He boarded the ship and sent the infected to the lake. He came to the colony not long after the zombie successfully entered the ship. Although the security tried to stop the whole colony was soon surrounded by these monsters. The chaos broke out. Several residents were bitten by zombies. Soon after, Deli saw all this and tried to help her friends, but was attacked by a zombie. The zombie almost bit her neck. Fortunately, Roland eliminated the zombie and told others to protect the survivors, and she went to find Jack. Speaking of Jack, the police gave the little Hope to the nurse and went to find Roland, but she didn't find Roland but saw two young men who were surrounded by a zombie. Before they were bitten, Jack eliminated the zombie and continued to look for his nurse. When he came to the deck of the ship, he finally saw Roland. They eliminated the infected in front of the party. Then Roland apologized to Jack for his previous attitude and warned him that they needed to escape through the tunnel. The two began to run, but Roland was stopped by Norton. Norton punched him and knocked him down. Jack was furious and ran to help him, but this crazy scientist used metal gloves to release a zombie to stop him. Then he threw Jack into a hole, but Jack fought back and stabbed Norton in the neck. Norton then walked to Jack and started his metal gloves and ordered the zombie to bite Jack. However, Jack attacked Norton and pushed the device to the wall and destroyed it. As a result, the zombie was no longer controlled by the scientist and began to bite him. At the same time, this crazy scientist was defeated, but Jack and Roland still need to escape before it's too late. They ran to the tunnel, but the zombie leader caught Roland and beat him to the ground. Jack picked up a metal stick and beat the infected zombie. At this time, this young woman saw a bracelet with Roland's name on her arm. She realized the zombie leader was not anyone else but her biological father, but there was no time to delay. Jack pulled her away. Dory and other survivors successfully escaped through the tunnel and got the detonator, but she refused to activate it because Roland had not returned. Even so, everyone insisted that she press the device, so this young man detonated the bomb and all the ships exploded. Jack and Roland successfully passed the tunnel and found the survivors, but one of them was infected with a rifle. He threatened that if anyone tried to kill him he would shoot, but Jack let him calm down and put his weapon on the ground. However, a few seconds later the zombie leader attacked someone. Then he came to Jack. Jack had no weapon and could only fight with the zombie leader. He fought hard with the zombie and kicked and beat, but the zombie still beat him to the ground and bit his wrist. Roland knew that it was his father, so he fired a shot at the zombie's head and saved his foster father's life. Although he was bitten, but the bracelet on Jack's wrist protected him. He was not infected. After ensuring everyone's safety, he decided to carry out his own plan. He took Roland, Little Hope, and other survivors to the island off the coast of the United States. There they could finally get away from the zombie disaster and live a peaceful life. Okay, that's all for today's video. If you are interested in this movie, you can watch the original film. If you think my explanation is good, please give me a like. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to continue to create. See you next time.